Hey, good morning, everybody. My name is Walter Contreras, and I'm super excited to be here. I want to first thank you for making the time to spend some time with us today, and we're going to show you some of the tools we've been using in the past that have been extremely successful for us. And one of those tools that we want to talk about is using Zoom meetings. I'm gonna make this very interactive. At the end of the presentation, I'm gonna open up for Q&A. If some of you guys need help setting up your Zooms, you have questions about which version of Zoom, what should you be doing in terms of sales approaches, I'm more than happy to open up for Q&A at the end. So we're gonna start with why we're here today. So we're gonna talk about online meetings etiquette. We'll talk about your setup, what kind of cameras, microphones you have, which version of the Zoom do you need? What meeting versus webinar means to Zoom? How to invite people? Calendar and Outlook integration. We'll talk about automation as well because I think that's a big part of sales. How to join meetings, sharing your screen, control your audience, and the potential, right? The potential that that Zoom has in terms of being able to meet with more potential customers. And then we'll get into a demo. So what we're going to show you is how effectively Zoom is to have successful meetings online. And just a little background on me, I've been in the IT industry for the last 25 years. I've helped tons of small to medium-sized businesses to be extremely effective with technology. I live on Long Island. We have a managed service company that specializes in cybersecurity, but we do use these tools daily to meet with our customers as well as help our customers close more sales and have better interactions with their customers. Our mission is to serve and support our customers to the best of our abilities and to help develop their businesses through the innovation of technology. That's literally why I'm here. And so let's get started. So it's a very unprecedented time right now. Life has changed. I actually think that a lot of the way we do business going forward after we uh, are able to get back to work is going to change drastically. And in a good way, I believe, because there's also the fear that people used to have, is it a better meeting if I'm online or is it better to be in person? That 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 now has shifted to, okay, we could do this. This is doable. This is a good way to communicate with people, actually a little bit more engaging. And so therefore, I think that a lot of businesses will change and rethink their sales approach and business models. You know, you need to stay in touch with your customers right now. It's a very difficult time for everybody. And the more we stay in touch with them, the better it is. Someone is staying in touch with them. So hopefully it's you. And if they're not hearing from you, believe me, they're hearing from someone else, and especially your competitors. So we're quickly shifting to a work from home mentality. Like I said, I actually believe that this will be a huge shift. We have been using these tools for years, but the majority of businesses are still stuck in a way of doing business like they did a long time ago. And the truth is that as younger generations are getting into the workforce, that shift, that mindset will change drastically. So as a business owner, you have to maximize productivity and you have to think about, can my salespeople meet with more than one person a day or two people a day and be more productive? Can they send an electronic document to sign online, et cetera, et cetera? So you have to think about that, especially now that there's no one at the office. So it's a whole different world managing, managing remote workers. It's challenging. From a technology standpoint, I can tell you that there are ways to manage that really well in the sense of productivity. I actually think that people are extremely productive when they're home. And more importantly, I think that they had the freedom to do other stuff. So therefore, they can get things done quicker. I have proven this over the last 10 years with my team. We're in different places, different offices, and we don't miss a beat. In fact, right now, it's one of the biggest things on how we're helping people remotely connect and do their work. So it's been a tremendous thing for us, and we can talk about that during this series of webinars that we will be putting out. So what technologies do we need today? We're going to focus on Zoom because there's a big demand for meeting people online, and I happen to think that Zoom, although there are other tools, is just more simplistic. I use the analogy of the toilet paper thing. Somebody said toilet paper, and all of a sudden, everybody needed toilet paper. The same thing happened with Zoom. Somebody said, "Oh, let's use Zoom." There are other tools, Microsoft Teams, there's WebEx, there's GoToMeeting, there's a lot of different tools, but we're specifically talking about Zoom due to its simplicity. So can I make this comfortable and productive as possible? I actually think that, again, the last 2.5 weeks that we've been working remotely, our team has been able to not only successfully help customers remotely, but also they've been able to stay at home and help other people, their family members. And so and that's an everyday thing for us. So I do believe that there could be a lot of productivity from employees working remotely. So I'll talk about etiquette and best practices because I see a lot of failures in this end. I actually think that an online meeting is no different than an in-person meeting. You still have to get dressed. Your hair has to be, you know, uh, in good shape. Your the way you look um, says a lot about how much do you care about the meeting. So for me, meeting etiquette, it's a big deal, and we'll talk about best practices. I see a lot of online events that fail because of that, and I want you to be successful. I want you to succeed in this new venture, and I want you to just pay attention to some of these cues. So I like to talk about if you are inviting multiple people to a webinar or to a meeting online, right? You may want to create a registration form, and we'll talk about that during the process. But that's only if you're inviting multiple people. If you're not, just stick to a single invite, and we'll show you how to do that as well. You want to promote that event. Again, if it is an event like the one we're doing right now, when you are inviting your customers to a chat, to a conversation about what they need, then yes, promote that event ahead of time. Use channels like LinkedIn, Facebook, all social media. That's a great way to do it. Email, etc. You want to set the duration of the meeting, because you can't have too much of a longer conversation, because it gets a little boring at the end. So make sure that you understand that you can't go too long into it unless you're doing a presentation about a topic that almost like a classroom setting. So review the attendee report. Just make sure that everybody that registered, if this was a preset event, it's review that report. um, Live events, just manage the aesthetics of your webcam. Make sure you have a nice webcam. I use the Logitech. They're not that expensive. I think I purchased one for like $50. And it does come with a microphone, so you don't need to have a headset like the one I do. However, I do prefer the headset because the audio is clear. And I like the fact that I can have a much better sound coming out of my headset. Again, you don't have to have it. Some of you guys are using the Apple AirPods. I happen to think that they're phenomenal. And we'll talk about how to even dial into the Zoom if you don't want to use the computer audio. But again, having a good webcam, having a good headset, it's a huge deal. Come into the meeting early, right? I mean, try to get there a little early and test it, maybe test the sound, maybe interact with people, and then start the topic right away. That's a big deal. People want to get going, especially now, everybody's super busy. So, and use a PowerPoint when possible, kind of like how I'm doing right now. I'm guiding the conversation through a PowerPoint. It doesn't have to be as elaborate as this one. It could be something very simple, just to kind of keep the focus into the PowerPoint and the presenter. I happen to think that that's also a big thing. Eye contact, as you can see, I keep looking at my camera. And one of the reasons why I do that is because, again, it's that etiquette, it's that presentation. You're paying attention to the presentation. So you want to have a complete follow-up, and in our case, we'll send out a recording of this webinar so you guys can have it and share it and use it as you want. So those are some of the best practices. I like to test the technology beforehand, including my camera. I want to make sure my Wi-Fi, if I'm home, I want to make sure my Wi-Fi is set up correctly. If I'm sharing my screen, I want to make sure that I close some windows that I don't want to accidentally share. So you have to be very careful with when you click on that share button that you're not sharing your banking information or something like that. So be very careful of that. If you are having a meeting between, it's a business meeting, you're talking to multiple people, it's a great idea to introduce each other and give that person a little bit of time to say who they are, what they do, kind of thing. Try to have your mobile device turned off. I know it's hard, we're in constant communication, but it's really important that you focus on the presentation and that you're giving that attention to the other person. Don't interrupt, that's a big one. Try to have a good conversation with people. That's obviously conversation in one-on-one, but I just want to make sure I make the point of that. Read the agenda and come prepared. I think that a lot of these online meetings could be extremely, extremely successful if we come prepared to them. If we have a good guidance, if we wrote down what we were going to talk to people about, and again, you're not in an in-person setting where you're limited to only what you have in your head. You could actually take notes, glue them right next to your computer, and then just pay attention. Make sure you're checking off the questions you were supposed to ask, or the topics you were supposed to speak about. Don't work on other tasks like checking email during that meeting. It is disrespectful for the presenter, disrespectful for the rest of the people. So and turn off all the notifications, including the ones in your computer. Some of us have Outlook notifications on our computers or Google Chrome notifications. Make sure those are turned off as well. All team members should be on a quiet, free zone. I literally have my 10-year-old daughter in the room next door, and I asked her to please be quiet for the next 30 minutes. So you have to make sure of all these things. If you don't have a really good background, just use the Zoom. We'll talk about the Zoom virtual backgrounds in a little bit, but that's what's important. So let's talk about setup. Zoom puts out these requirements, right? I could tell you that most of us that have a modern computer or an iPad or an iPhone, we probably meet these requirements right away. The one thing that I want to again touch on is webcam, right? If you're not using your mobile devices and you're using your computer at home, a good webcam will definitely help you. Good microphone, and that's really important. So, and again, I'll share the links where you can see these system requirements, but I can almost guarantee you that you probably meet them already because most modern computers work relatively well. So I get this question all the time, which version of the Zoom should I get? So I answer that very easily. If you are only doing one-on-one meetings or maybe 2 to 3 people and you don't need to go over 40 minutes on the phone call, the basic free Zoom does everything for you. The only thing that it doesn't do is record the meeting like we're doing right now. But for most people that are, right now working from home and they're doing one-on-one meetings with their customers, the free account will be more than enough. And again, that's limited to 40 minutes. I think Zoom was extending it for a little bit of time, but I'm not really sure if they continue doing that. Now, the Pro version, it obviously has more hosts. If you need more than one host, I am the host right now. If you need more than one at a time, then yes, you're gonna need that. But for most of us right now to do those one-on-one meetings, we just need to have the free version. Excuse me. There are no limit in time with the Pro. You can have a custom personal meeting URL, and that's a good thing because you could always reuse that all the time and post it maybe on your web page with a link. But and it does cloud recording. Okay, the business it's or enterprise is more host. You get your own website for a URL, and you can brand it better. So I think between the basic and the pro, you're pretty covered for most day to day. I do tons of Zooms. My team does tons of Zooms, and the pro it's more than enough for us. Some of my team members even use the free version. So there is a section. So what we're discussing right now is the Zoom meeting. Okay. There is also a version which I'm using right now called Zoom Webinar. I highly recommend Zoom Webinar when you have multiple participants, when you're having tons of attendees, and it's a larger event in public broadcasting. That's when you really want to get into, using webinar. You can control the audience a little better. You have recording capabilities. You can do Q&A pooling. You can do a lot of stuff with webinar. But again, for most of us right now, Zoom meeting is just fine. So who wants to get started setting up Zoom meetings? So the first thing I really want to talk about is how to create a free account. So just head on over to zoom.us, zoom.us, and click on the sign up free button on the upper right hand side. When you do that, you will be, When you do that, you will be prompted to sign up for a free account. And again, you can use what we call single sign-on with Google or sign up with Facebook. Any way you do it, you will get an email confirmation into your mailbox. Okay? So open the portal, enter your email, and click on the sign up. Follow the screen steps to set up those users and set up your account. So you'll get an email that looks like this from Zoom the first time you create your account, and that's going to activate your account. And when you click on activate account, it's going to take you to a page where you're going to complete your profile. So here we are at the welcome Zoom screen. Just put your information on there. And it's going to ask you to complete your profile. If you want to invite other people, if some members of your organization need to also have Zoom, here's where you will enter their email addresses so that they can get that welcome email. And obviously you have to click on the CAPTCHA that you're not a robot, or maybe you are, I don't know. So, and then you'll be prompted to test the meeting. So I want to take a couple of seconds to talk about this screen here. So by the way, that personal meeting URL, that is your personal URL while you're using Zoom, meaning you can give that to anybody, and that's always going to be your URL for Zoom. You can start the meeting now, but I want to just quickly go into my account. I also want to point out that there are two plugins that are quite important, that if you're using Microsoft Outlook or you're using Gmail and Chrome, you can download the Chrome extension for that. And we'll talk extensively about these plugins, but I just want to show you where they are for right now. So once you get into your profile, the first screen you're going to see is something that looks like this. I'd like you to click on edit under your picture and change that picture to a headshot, to a nice professional headshot. After all, we're doing business online, so we want to look as professional as we can, kind of like a LinkedIn profile. I also want you to take a look at on the bottom where it says connect to calendar and contact. We're going to talk extensively about that section because you can link your account email addresses to there, and then you'll be able to see calendar information, etc. So we'll talk about that. So that's the connect to calendar. If you click on there, it actually prompts you to set up your Gmail or your Outlook or whatever email service you use. But I want to go back and start testing the meeting. So if you go back to the previous screen and you click on Start Meeting Now, this is where Zoom will prompt you to open the application. Now, I want you to keep in mind, if you have not used Zoom before, and this is the first time you're going into this page, please, when you click on Open, it's going to prompt you to download the app, because after all, Zoom is a program and it has to run locally on that computer or on that mobile device. So as you can see here on the screenshot, if for any reason your web browser blocks the download, or something happened where you cancel or whatever, you can still download and run Zoom from this screen. And there's also a download page URL that I'm going to give you at the end of the presentation. But when you click on that, it's going to try to open the app. If it doesn't exist on your computer, it will prompt you to download it. That's a very important piece of information. So when you click on Open, if you have it already installed, it's going to open it. If you don't, it's going to prompt you to install it. Just install the app the first time and you'll be on your way. So just keep in mind, that's the first test we're downloading. You could always re-download from that page. If you're using the Mac, it's going to open it up on Safari. Just click on that Zoom file. And at the end, you're going to be presented with a screen that looks like this. This is what the Zoom meeting looks like, no matter what platform you're using. If you're using a Mac at home or you're using a PC, it's gonna look the same. It's gonna look a little different on the mobile apps, but Zoom has done a terrific job at trying to keep everything unified. So they did a great job with that. So how do we start a meeting? Look, there's many ways you can start a meeting. You can start a meeting from scheduling a meeting right from within that screen I showed you before on the web page. But you could also do a lot of instant meetings right from your Outlook and your Gmail calendar. And we'll talk extensively about that so that you guys can go on and start scheduling meetings. But a few things that I want to show you here. You may not, when you schedule a meeting, put a topic that makes sense to the meeting topic. If you are doing this ahead of time and you're choosing a date and time, make sure that the correct time zone is set. You could set up reoccurring meetings, meaning that if you have a meeting every Monday morning with your team and it's at 10 a.m. and you do it every Monday, you can set that up as a reoccurring meeting, and then that will automatically put it in their calendars so that they block that time for that meeting, okay? You can select the video, whether it's the host on or off. If you want the participants to have the video or not, that's completely up to you. I like to always select telephone and computer audio, and I will talk to you about why I like telephone too, because sometimes there are areas that's just not great signal. Maybe I'm not in front of my home computer. I'd rather dial in with the regular telephone line than to use the internet computer audio, okay? So you can lock your meetings by requiring a password, and that's completely up to you. And again, if you're using any other calendars, here's where you will select them. So how do we invite people to the meeting? It's an interesting question. During the meeting, once you open that screen, you could click on the invite button, right? So if you're talking to somebody and say, hey, Michael, let's get onto a Zoom. Do you have time right now? And to say, yeah, sure. So you can quickly open your Zoom, fire it up, click on the invite button, and you'll have a link to send to them. And you can send that link and they can click on it and join the Zoom in 10 seconds. That's why Zoom is becoming very popular. It's mainly because of its simplicity. And by the way, you could also do that from the web portal under your profile by copying that link. So you can send it by email, by instant messaging, like, we in our office, we use Slack and Microsoft Teams. You copy that URL. Remember the Zoom invitation, it's literally just that URL, right? So every time you create a new, if you're creating an invite from your profile, it'll have that URL, that personal URL that was created at the beginning when you do that. So all you have to do is send that to somebody, and when they click on it, it opens a web browser for them, and that's how you schedule a meeting. So I want to talk a little bit about integrations. Excuse me. Um, there's a lot of integrations for Zoom. Actually, Zoom is a very open platform, which means that there's a lot of connections, ways to connect, and things like that to make it simpler. So on the Outlook calendar integration, you can download that from the Microsoft App Store, and there's also an integration. This is what the Outlook integration looks like. It puts two shortcuts on your Outlook. If you are using the Outlook program in your computers, I highly recommend you download this Outlook plugin, because you could literally start a meeting immediately right inside your Outlook, or even schedule one right from your Outlook calendar. So it's an incredible tool. I highly recommend that. If you need help with that, installing it, setting it up, please let me know and we'll be happy to help you. So you can schedule a meeting in Outlook Web. Some of us have moved to the cloud. We're using Office 365, or we're using some sort of a web email. So you also have the ability to add that Zoom meeting from within it. All you have to do is, again, install that plugin, and you can set up those calendar Outlook meetings from within the website as well. So all you have to do is click on those dots and add a Zoom meeting to it. Again, if you are using the Outlook desktop application, download the plugin. It's much easier. So viewing and editing Zoom meetings in Outlook Calendar Web, you could always go back to the calendar, edit it, change the dates. That's just the same way you kind of change a calendar invite, a regular one, is the same way you're gonna edit that. So click on Zoom, click on the settings, edit it, and then just change it. Google Calendar integration is also supported in Zoom. I highly recommend, if you are using G Suite Google Calendar, and if you're using Chrome, to download the Chrome extension for Zoom. It's gonna make it so easy. It's a simple click on G Suite Calendar, and you can just click on it, and as you can see on the screen here, you can just click on it and it adds the Zoom information automatically. So, and we can talk about that. We can show you how to set that up if you're having trouble with that. Google Calendar is very easy. You just add the conferencing number and open Google Calendar, select the time slot, click more options, and off you go. You just put the Zoom information. If you are logged into Zoom, that's automatically there. So it's a really neat tool. Again, this is the Chrome extension. You can schedule meetings right within the Chrome extension too. So it's a really good tool as well. And all you have to do is install that Chrome extension like you do the others. So by the way, this is the download center. I just want to give you the address. Anything with Zoom is zoom.us/whatever. So this happens to be download. And on that website, there's all sorts of related downloads for Zoom. So what they support in terms of devices is all listed there. Okay, so let's talk about scheduling a meeting. You want to set the date and time and the duration of that meeting. As you can see on the screen, all I have to do is create click on schedule, and then I start putting the information, the time, the duration of the meeting, etc. And then I save it. I could also set up a reoccurring, like we talked about it before. If you are going to do this again, this reoccurring is the way to go. And you can set up how many reoccurrences on the lower right-hand side you're wishing to do during that duration. To join a meeting on the other side, when you send that meeting invite, there's many ways to do it. Obviously, the URL address that you send to people is the easiest way. They just click on it, it opens Zoom, or it prompts them to download it. So one of the questions I always ask people is, hey, when I send you this link, if you don't have Zoom, it's going to ask you to download it. So please do so. But the other way to do it is you can just go to zoom.us, and there's a link in there. There's a place where you can put the meeting ID. The meeting ID is the last section of that URL. That's always going to be that personal meeting ID. So if you put that on here under meeting ID and click on join, you will be on that meeting as well. So it's not just the URL. You could also manually type it. I've been in meetings where some people will say to me, I can't open the URL, or maybe they have some sort of a security software that blocks the URL. I don't know. So I tell them, just go to zoom.us, and where it says join a meeting, put this number in, and then they're in. So don't be hung up on just because they can't open the URL that you can't get them on, okay? There's always a way to get them in. Dialing feature, this is the Zoom meeting screen. I want you to pay attention to the lower left where you have the microphone and the video section, because those two are very important. Obviously, the video, you turn it on and off. That just turns off your webcam or not. But the mute and unmute button, if you click on that little arrow next to the microphone, so that will give you the microphone selection tab. And as you can see here, this one is particularly using that MacBook Pro microphone and speaker. You could change that. If you have more devices, like I have my headset here, mine will look a little different because it will have my mic, it will have other stuff. So I can choose to play the audio from the speaker or the computer, but speak through my mic. Like I can set it up whichever way is easier for me. I happen to like to have a headset all the time, so I like the audio and the mic to be on the same headset. But I just want to show you here why we're on this switch to audio screen. A lot of the times you are not going to be on the perfect internet connection, or you might be on the road, you might be on the street. And so the reason why this exists is because I can switch to phone audio. And by doing that, it's gonna, when you click on that, the system is gonna automatically enter all the strings from meeting ID to the pound number to the PIN number, and you'll be prompted to enter right into the meeting audio via your phone. And so it's important because sometimes you're not in front of the best internet, or it's choppy, right? You could always say, hey, you know what? It sounds terrible. Let me just dial in, and go here under the audio sections, leave the computer audio, click on that button that says leave computer audio, and then go back and go into phone audio. Okay, that's a very important piece of information when the sound is not great. There's so many customizations in the meetings. We're gonna, again, like I said, we're gonna have a series of 5 of these, and on the next ones, we're gonna get deeper into automation and configuration and all that other stuff. For now, I just want to let you know that there are many settings that we can set up on Zoom for customizations, especially with the Pro version. The free version, it's a little limited, but there's many things we could do. One of the biggest topics for me is sharing my screen. I happen to think that that's extremely engaging for prospects. We do a lot of sales online. We do tons of demonstrations, and we show product casing. We have contract sign online. So everything for us is online, and sharing my screen makes such a big difference, right? When I click on that button and I'm able to show a prospect a design of a system, or what their offices are going to look like with the new telephones, it's such a powerful presentation. So when you're in that Zoom screen, if you click on that share button, that green button, you're going to be prompted to select multiple screens. Okay, and when you do that, you're going to select the screen that you're trying to share. Like, for example, right now I'm sharing my PowerPoint screen, but I have other things open on my desktop. I don't have to show you that. I can only show, I want to only show you my PowerPoint presentation. If you want to show everything, you click on screen and you share everything, but you don't have to. You can share just your web browser. You can share just your PowerPoint. You can share your Excel spreadsheet, whatever you want to share to your prospects. Select that. Select what you want to share. Be more specific. And all you really have to do is click on that share button and select the one that you want. When you start sharing your screen, you control the menu. I wanna briefly pause here and talk a little bit about, you can pause your share live. So if you click on that pause share and you wanted to quickly maybe grab another file to share, or maybe you want to open another Excel spreadsheet, you can pause it, right? And then share the new spreadsheet afterward. I highly recommend using the whiteboard feature. I'm not going to be able to demo it because I'm on the PowerPoint, but the whiteboard feature allows me to draw in the screen. And for my prospect, um, my attendee, to be able to see what I'm writing on that whiteboard. So it's a very powerful tool to use. I want to talk about the potential of Zoom. You know, I talk to my sales team all the time about meeting one-on-one with people. I happen to think that Zoom is an incredible tool for sales. You know, if you are on the road meeting with customers or prospects and you're only able to see 2 to 3 people a day, think about the potential by inviting people to a more engaging meeting online. And by the way, maybe they don't have an hour to meet with you. Maybe they would rather meet with you 15 minutes in front of the camera and get it done with, especially now because everything, now people are going to be more open to Zoom meetings than ever before. So think about the potential of you meeting with 5, 6 people per day rather than drive around Long Island trying to figure it out, you know, how to get from one place to the other. I happen to think that it's extremely engaging. The presentation focuses the audience. And, you know, for us, we do everything online from electronic documents and approvals online.